Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us that get us thinking, get us connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do just a bit more because we've made that connection. And today we are talking about the 3-day DFL convention taking place. It started yesterday, Friday, May 29th, and it goes through Sunday, May 31st. And it's at the Mayo Civic Center in Rochester. Joining me to talk about the convention and all that's going on there is our friend Jonathan Raylander. And he will be discussing the DFL convention and some nuances that we may not be aware of. John has been my co-host in 2 previous shows. We've been doing data center work, and he is a former DFL district chair and a longtime attendee of the DFL convention. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
It's good to be here. And as you know, I'm excited about this show. It's an exciting convention that we're in.
Interesting first night, for sure.
Absolutely. So we have endorsement battles. We've got major policy debates. And a little bit of intra-party stuff going on,
a little
bit of that going on. I was very moved. It was a very somber and an urgent opening.
Yes, it was.
The convention began with a heavy policy-focused opening remarks. Party leadership explicitly addressed progressive issues and recent local tragedies, including Melissa Hortman and her the killing of 2 Minneapolis residents by ICE agents. And propelling immigration enforcement and safety to the forefront of the platform. So with that, I want us to start with the high-stakes endorsement battles. Shall we talk about the gubernatorial, and I won't call it coronation.
No, it definitely was not, at least the way she had probably anticipated.
So
right.
Tell me about it. Tell me, what's your view about Amy and her journey to get that endorsement?
Well, it's been an interesting development over the last few days, especially. Just in the last few days leading up to the convention, obviously, there was some interesting news that came out. Amy picked a running mate, which has its own implications because the person that she picked to join her as lieutenant governor candidate is Ben Shirer, who was one of the state auditor candidates up until just recently.
So there were 4.
There were 4.
And
now
we're
it's down
3.
to 3.
Okay. And with that, there was a little bit of issue, at least in discussions, about the progressive wing seeing her as a moderate and a little bit of skepticism.
Yeah, Amy, she's got a great success record in the Senate.
Yep.
And she's won very handily statewide as a senator. She's one of the most reliably Democratic candidates that she's going to win.
Yeah.
She's got a winning record.
Yeah.
In the Senate, she's got a lot of, but the thing, and I think this is what gives a lot of progressives pause, is that she does talk up how much she was able to work with Republican senators and so on. So there's the moderate candidate shield that she wears very well. But that leaves some progressives wondering where she's going to stand on their issues.
Right.
And so there hadn't been a real serious challenger in the days leading up to the convention that had really gained any traction. So this was largely, and this was a term, you used it, I used it, that a lot of people felt in the days leading up to this that it was largely going to be a coronation for Amy, and that she was going to have a relatively smooth path to the endorsement. That changed last night. And so from the floor, they nominated another candidate to be a challenger to her. And she's a transgender candidate named Kobe Lane. She was nominated from the floor. The delegates voted in sufficient enough numbers to be able to make it so there was an actual Q&A and a debate on the stage last night.
And it went pretty late.
It went very late. Well, and it got a late start because there were a lot of discussions at the very beginning about rules and the agenda and everything else. That took quite a while. So they didn't get into the endorsement stuff until late in the evening. And so there was a vote where they probably thought that that wasn't going to be necessary, that it was largely going to be by acclamation. And then, yeah, that wrapped up about 1:30 this morning.
And what I understand is that she won on the very first ballot
She did.
with 67% of the vote.
Yes.
Which I think bodes well. And it really solidified her status as the clear party favorite. And I think that's
Absolutely.
important.
I don't think there was a lot of doubt that she was eventually going to get the endorsement. But it was interesting that she didn't get it outright. And I think that ultimately, in my opinion, that's actually not a terrible thing because it showed that she's able to debate about the issues. She's able to.
She's quick on her feet.
She is. She didn't look particularly happy about it when the pictures that I saw of her up on stage.
Like, say what?
However,
Yeah.
it does show, again, it continues her winning trend
Yeah.
in a way that I think it's going to make her stronger because, and I think the progressives are going to feel better because they're going to be able to feel like she does have to answer for our issues as well. And not saying that they weren't Amy's issues already, just saying that
It gave her an opportunity to show it,
it did.
which is good. Shall we move to the Senate?
Let's do it.
So the race for the U.S. Senate, marquee event that folks were looking to see a battle between Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and Representative Angie Craig for the endorsement, and this is for the retiring Senate seat of Senator Tina Smith.
Right.
Now, they both carry deep roots in different parts of the party, but something happened.
It did. In the week leading up to this, just the last few days, Angie Craig decided that she was not going to attend the convention.
She wasn't going to
She
seek
wasn't
the
going
party
to seek
endorsement.
the party endorsement. She was going to forego that process altogether and go to the primary, which is going to happen in August.
So she's still running.
She's still running for sure. But she feels, and the way that her campaign put it out, is that she feels that the primaries are a better way to get the approval from the greater part of the state, as opposed to a smaller select group of people at the
Interesting.
convention.
Interesting.
Which, it's not unheard of, obviously. I mean, this is how Governor Wall, but both Governor Walz and Governor Dayton, when they went to the convention and didn't get the endorsement in their races for the first time, they did attend the convention. But they then won in the primary over the endorsed candidate from the state convention.
So how do people feel about her just not showing up?
You got a lot of mixed feelings out there, right? And obviously, it's going to be seen through the filter of whether you're an Angie or a Peggy fan.
Yeah.
So in the case of those who are in Angie's camp right now,
Yeah.
a lot of them feel like it is not a big deal. It's not a big surprise. It was always going to go to a primary anyway. Both of them had made that fairly clear that they weren't going to let the convention be the stopping point because they both have a lot of support.
Yeah.
But in this case, the fact that she didn't go to the convention at all, that's rubbing some people the wrong way.
Right.
And they're feeling like they ran for these offices. They ran and they gave up their weekend to be part of this endorsement process. They feel that the endorsement that it matters, that it has some weight. And it also, excuse me, also has an impact on how these candidates campaign from this point forward. Because when you get the endorsement at the convention, you get the party resources that come along with it. Whether
And
it's
that's not-
funding.
yeah, it's not just finance.
No.
There's,
It goes beyond finances. I mean, that's part of it, obviously. But the other part of it is the infrastructure that comes with it, the voter information that comes to you as an endorsed candidate as opposed to otherwise. So, yeah, it does have an impact.
So it seems to me there's like two ways of looking at it from the different parties. So there's not parties, but different individuals running. So you've got Angie kind of questioning, does this really reflect the full scope of the party? Is this
Right.
truly representative of the reality of the Minnesota? And bringing up, it's really a purple state. People think of it as a blue state, but it's a purple state. So
It's been closer than a lot of people realize.
yeah. So there's that issue, but then You go on the other side of the coin, and it's, is she waiting for, corporate investment? Is there a corporate end to the skipping the convention and going right to the primary?
Well, there was another aspect to it too, and I think that was largely shown in the breakup of the delegates that were going on to the state convention from their Senate district and congressional district conventions, and they can do math. They saw that, and it was from the Flanagan camp. They were saying that they had about 75% of the delegates going into the convention.
Nice.
And so, nice for Peggy, not so great for Angie.
Well, but what I'm saying is that it would be nice to have that.
As a candidate, you'd love to have that kind of a cushion.
So Angie could see that as well.
Exactly. They knew what they were walking into. There were a lot of instances, and especially in the metro conventions, where you were seeing not just ambivalence towards Angie, but there was some actual hostility towards some of her presentations at some of these Senate district conventions. And this has become a thing that we've seen in conventions more and more lately in the last few years, where when her name came up, some delegates actually stood up in the crowd and turned their back.
Wow.
And to the podium. And so whether she was there in person or whether it was a surrogate for her campaign in the metro area, that has been predominantly the case. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And again, it all depends on who you talk to.
Right.
But yeah, there is some concern, especially among the more progressive wing of the party, about Angie and frankly about Amy as well. Right. But Amy was seeing it less than Angie has from what I've seen across the state.
Well, it's going to be this drama keeps playing out.
It does.
So we get through August to see really who is going to be our candidate.
Right. And today the Senate endorsement happens today at the convention. Peggy should get that pretty easily. I can't imagine that we're going to see what we saw last night, for example.
Someone being nominated from the floor.
I don't think that's probably going to happen. And if it does, it's probably going to be a pretty short session. Okay. But that endorsement for Peggy should go very smoothly.
Good. It's nice to have something go smoothly.
Especially for the delegates who were up late last night.
Yes, they deserve that. State auditor watchdog battle. So it was a four-way.
It was a four-candidate race.
Now three-way.
Yep.
Because of Amy picking one of the auditors.
Ben Shirer, yep.
So
he's going to be her lieutenant governor candidate, yep.
What's the word on the street with them? With that, is it going to be a tough
with the auditor race?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I've been talking to a lot of folks who are delegates at this thing, and there isn't a clear-cut favorite right now. Even with the shakeup with the Shirer departure to be the LG candidate, there's three people who are running, and it's going to be an interesting race because there hasn't been the amount of drama around it. And B,
so it's sort of been in the shadows.
It's been, auditors generally a more quiet race.
Yes, anyway.
In general. But, most people, the consensus seems to be that most people would be fine with any of the three that are out there.
A very Midwestern response. They're all good. They're all good. Yeah, sure.
It's an embarrassment of riches. That's right.
Oh, that's great. There's also some down ballot incumbents that were re-endorsed. Tell me about that.
Right. Last night, and despite the late hour, they ended up getting Steve Simon, who's the Minnesota Secretary of State. He got his endorsement again. He's running for re-election. Another candidate running for re-election is Attorney General Keith Ellison, and he handily won his endorsement as well. So after all the stuff going around the governor race, that one went very smoothly, very quickly. And there didn't seem to be any problems with that amongst the delegates.
Well, that's good to hear. It's nice to have that be another easy.
You bet.
So some of the things that aren't so easy is looking at the platform.
Yes.
Let's start with the ICE policies.
Obviously, that's going to be a big one this year. There was obviously the debacle that happened in the legislative session. Because of the evenly divided House, it's literally 67-67. And in the Senate, the Democrats only had a one-vote majority. So some things went through the Senate that literally never got a vote in the House. They largely died in committee because there were about 13 different proposals that were brought forward regarding the ICE situation and a response. And in the committees themselves, because they are evenly divided, a lot of them died on 50-50 votes, and then didn't advance to the floor. There were a few things that tried to, or looked like they might break through, but nothing really did. And largely that is a concerted effort on the part of the Republicans to squelch any ICE efforts.
Yeah.
Anything that dealt with it. And the rhetoric coming from the floor on ICE was pretty divisive. I mean, we don't have time to get into all of it.
You can get a little bit more.
But
go for it.
They largely viewed it as either over or that the efforts were exactly on target and they were doing exactly what they should have been doing. That was the Republican stance. And that kills me because when you're looking at the effect it had on the state, not just in human cost, which is definitely the most devastating of the effects, but you're also looking at a financial cost. We had businesses go under. We had people who were terrorized in their neighborhoods, regardless of the color of their skin, but especially these targeted communities, particularly the Hispanic and the Somali communities. And so when we're talking about an impact, particularly in the metro where we were seeing the greatest, it landed like an anvil in a fairly quick order. And obviously we lost two citizens. We lost Renee Good and we lost Alex Preddy.
And it's hard to justify that, that was in the past, it's over, when a woman got shot in the face and a guy got shot in his back.
It's unbelievable. And the fact that there's been no accountability for it up until this point, not that the Minnesota isn't trying. The BCA, the Keith Ellison's office, they're trying. And,
the feds are not.
Hennepin County attorney, even Mary Moriarty, is bringing some charges, even regarding the man who was shot but didn't die.
Right in the leg, yeah.
And that whole debacle. And again, the false narratives. Mm-hmm. That all has had a devastating impact on our community. And it's not just impacting us here in the metro, though. We're seeing it in outstate, too.
Oh, sure. I remember reading about how some ICE agents went to a Mexican restaurant, had a great lunch, came back later and decided that they would arrest everyone.
And then arrested the people who worked there.
Who had just served them.
Yep.
It was like, is there no heart? I mean, this is like, what?
Well, and the other thing that it's had, and this doesn't get as much news, is in the education system, you had a lot of families who didn't feel safe taking their kids to and from school. And so they were large, and some school districts were better than others at addressing this.
And some Somalia children didn't go at all.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They largely stayed home, and they were either doing a virtual learning thing or they just weren't going at all. And then, again, obviously some people didn't feel safe going to and from work and everything else because obviously they were focusing on a lot of businesses that are owned primarily by these targeted groups, or at least in these areas. Mm-hmm. And so that counts towards the education funding because when you're looking at how schools get paid, they get paid by student attending. And if a student is away from school for X amount of time per the formula, then that has an impact on funding. And so they're looking at trying to address that through other means and through special legislation to adapt for that. So schools don't lose funding because they had kids who literally were too scared to go out of their doors. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Liam in Columbia Heights is a prime example of that. And the impact that had on that school it can't be overstated.
And it's still going. I mean,
they're
still confusing as to
happening.
Where Liam is going to be able to.
That's right. His family is still under threat of deportation. So when we're seeing these kind of things, and we're seeing, especially since ICE got their increase in funding at the national level, they don't, and it's very clear, now they don't feel like they have to stay out of the news as much because their threat funding is secure. And so we're seeing the ramp up of activity again. And what's been interesting, too, in the local level from my area is the impact on the flock conversation, the automatic license plate reader cameras, and how that is being seen as a surveillance state as opposed to the benefits that do come with it. But because a lot of this data is going and we're seeing more and more evidence of it, that it's flowing to and from the ICE facilities, from the ICE agencies, that it's being used to track folks. And that is a big concern.
Anytime when surveillance becomes part of the way we do business, makes it scary.
It does.
What's the next level if this gets accepted?
Yep. And again,
No. It's important to be looking at. I know we're a little over for our segment,
Yeah.
but I have a follow-up in that with what you've just discussed. How is the platform addressing it?
there's going to be some resolutions that are coming forward for people to look at about how do we want people to respond to ICE? What are the kind of laws that we want to push our legislators, because it is expected that Democrats are going to have a good year this year. Assuming, and again, no matter in whatever form the elections are eventually taking place, because there's efforts to suppress voting from the national level on down. But to the extent that they're going to happen, Democrats are expected to do well, not only here in Minnesota, but pretty much nationwide. And so
What I'm hearing also in what you're saying is it really makes a difference what our state has put together for our platform. That's going to also influence the greater Democratic Party.
it's a statement of priorities.
Yeah.
And as much as a budget reflects values, so does your platform. And your platform is how you get to how you make these other decisions. And so there's going to be a big push to obviously address the ICE issue along with a lot of other things.
Which we'll talk about in the next segment.
Right?
But this one is important. This one, we've been looked at worldwide
Yes.
for the work that we
Yeah.
that
I
how we
mean,
stood up. Yeah.
Minnesota, citizens of Minnesota got we're nominated for the Peace Prize. So,
We're
yeah.
nominated for the Peace Prize, and we got the Profile and Courage Award
Right.
as well, which
So, yeah.
is very moving.
Yep.
Well, with that, I will say that when we come back, we're going to continue our platform discussion. The two that I'd like to have you guys think about before we come back is bridging the urban and rural divide and the voice of youth delegates. We're going to also have some fun looking at data centers and bunches of other stuff as well. So stay with us here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota on Connections Radio Show. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and we're a show that talks about ideas that matter, and I'm glad you have joined the conversation. We are talking about the DFL convention happening right now. It started yesterday, May 29th, and is going to go through tomorrow, Sunday, May 31st. And I have with me my co-host from shows that we've been doing on data centers, Jonathan Raylander. And Jonathan has not only been my co-host, but he has been a former DFL district chair and a longtime attendee of the DFL convention, and a great person to give us kind of the inside scoop from his point of view about what's happening. So if you missed our first segment, we talked about the governors, the gubernatorial, and how Amy Klobuchar late last night,
Very late last night.
1 o'clock in the morning, she did claim the endorsement with the 67%. We talked about the Senate races. Someone dropped out.
Yep. Out of the convention, not the race.
That's right. Amy dropped out of the convention, but she's
No, Angie.
Angie Craig dropped out of the convention, but she's going to be there in the primary
That's right.
in August. Peggy Flanagan is looked to capture the endorsement, but she kind of knew that. Even coming in, had a great percentage of folks that she could count on that she thought was going to endorse
Yeah,
her.
she had a good delegate count. Yeah.
State auditor, we don't know.
It's up in the air.
All good people.
Yep. Yep.
An embarrassment of riches. We had some endorsement victories in terms of the down ballot incumbents. So Attorney General Keith Ellison, Secretary of State Steve Simon.
Yep. Both got theirs very handily. They had a much easier night than Amy did, yes.
And then we ended the last segment with talking about the ICE policies
Yes.
and the challenges.
That's going to be a big thing this year, obviously. And especially since we don't think it's not over.
Yeah. And how do we cope with what's the next surge?
Right.
You know, the Metro surge was the initial attack. What does it look like now? So now I'd like to have us dig a little deeper about something we've hinted at, and that's the urban and rural divide. There's a perception, and I'm going to underline perception, that our party is Twin Cities metro mostly focused. Love to have your reaction to that.
Well, that isn't to say that there isn't some difference of perspective, obviously, and from greater Minnesota to the metro. We've seen that play out. This is not a new thing. This is something that's been going on for years.
I think forever.
Yeah.
And not only in the rural, but I think in greater Minnesota, there's really a north-south differences as well.
Right.
So you've got metro north-south, but then sometimes north and south get kind of lumped in. I mean, I think of southern Minnesota very farmer predominant focused. I
Sure.
think of, there's not to say that there isn't farming in northern Minnesota.
Oh, there definitely is, yeah.
But there are other labor issues. There are other, what's happening and how have we dealt with
The mining and so on, yeah.
Absolutely. The Iron Range.
You bet.
That has a heartbreak there, too.
And then obviously the Boundary Waters has been a focus of a lot this year too, with the proposed mining that's being, talked about in the Boundary Waters. The Friends of the Boundary Waters have made have been pushing to fight back against this for the last 2 years.
So we know that there's always been differences,
You bet.
but it seems stronger now than ever. And you have some ideas about where some of that angst has come from.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you share.
Well, what we've seen over, say, the last 30 years, okay, if we're going to take it back to that, is the rise of right-wing radio and right-wing media particularly in greater Minnesota. Those are where they get most of their information. And what started differently in the 90s as opposed to what happened prior to that is that it used to be that everybody had the same television channels, got the same perspectives, same
Walter.
Yep, Walter Cronkite and the gang. You bet. And so everybody was dealing with the same filter, or at least had the same information presented them the same way. And what's changed since then is obviously the segmentation and specialization of our media, and particularly with the rise of the internet and everything else, we're seeing the algorithms basically focus us on media outlets and perspectives on social media that largely reinforce the beliefs we already have. So we're not exposed to a lot of contrary opinions.
I think it not only reinforces our opinions, but anger, they have discovered, is more powerful.
You bet.
And,
the algorithms
and tapping into that.
You bet. The algorithms are directed, and they've had more success, and people engage longer on these platforms when they are presented with, when they're scrolling through their phone or what have you, with things that get them excited or angry or fear. So that is where they focus on. And the algorithms, I mean, they're not dumb. They want people to get as many clicks and views because that's how they monetize things.
Exactly.
But so they want to keep your interest, and they want to keep you focused on that and engaged with that. And the more they do that, it's largely been through the fear factor.
So how's that played out in our DFL?
Well, what you've seen is, again, with the algorithm and the potential to divide, which is where they generally get most of their clicks, what you see is that people are pitted against each other. And it is largely focused on, in Minnesota, is a good example of this. You've got a largely perception that the outstate Minnesota is left out in the dust, and the legislative process and the political process is largely metro focused. And so when you've got that perception,
perception is reality.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly, because it translates. And again, the engagement, the method of engagement is a big thing too. Because when you're talking about things that happen online, it's very easy to be brave from behind a keyboard and from behind a screen.
Right. But when you get people together,
it's when you get them face to face. That's when you have the real breakthroughs. That's where you start to realize how much commonality there actually is.
The Venn diagram.
And how interconnected there is.
Yeah, there are intersections
You bet.
that are
And
very
it's
powerful.
Largely intersected. And again, you think about the farm issue, right? When we're talking about farms, tariffs have obviously had an impact. The
Healthcare for the farmers. How
Yeah.
do they? And the whole fertilizer.
The Iran war has had an impact, you bet.
All of
So
it.
when we're talking about the pressures that were already on the farming community, it doesn't just impact the farmers because it impacts the price you pay at the grocery store.
Right.
And the more expensive it is for the farmers to do their thing, the more expensive your food is. And there's an escalating cycle, and we've seen it largely magnified, especially since the Iran war took place. Because just take one aspect of it, the fertilizer. Okay? Fertilizer costs went through the roof because a lot of the fertilizer, for whatever reason, passes through that Strait of Hormuz. And so, because that's been blockaded by apparently both sides for some reason, we're seeing it where the costs have increased right at the time when farmers were doing their planting.
Most needed it. Yeah.
And so when we're already talking about hits that we're taking to cost of healthcare, when we're talking about hits that we're taking in the grocery
Food.
store,
Yeah.
when we're talking
Daily
about
living,
the
gas.
Exactly, the gas again.
Yes.
Yep.
It whether it hits you as a car driver or a tractor driver, and the diesel is out of this world crazy
Oh,
expensive.
no, we've seen jet fuel when we're getting into the summer season here. People are looking to travel. A lot of people are calling off trips because they can't afford the prices that are happening right now. And we're seeing even little ways that the airlines are
vacation
trying to
time.
compensate by adding extra fees for different things. Like my wife and I were looking at a trip this summer with the kids. We were looking at taking a flight. We had to pay on one carrier. I'm not going to name the carrier, but when we were looking at the prices, you had to pay an extra $100 per ticket for all four of us just to make sure we would be able to sit together. I mean, they get you into all these little ways, and they're trying to compensate. I understand that because the fuel is not a small thing.
No.
I mean, jet fuel doubled,
Right.
and not more than doubled at this point. And so, yeah, the longer this thing drags out, the worse it gets.
Getting back to folks who feel disenfranchised.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, perception, media input, conversations that
Sure.
only reinforce opinions. I have a friend from the Iron Range who feels that the party left him,
Right.
not that he left the party. What would you say to him getting into that room where we mostly all agree, face to face? What are some of the things that you would share with him to help him realize or have an aha moment maybe about who we are as a DFL party?
Well, part of it ties back to what we were just saying and realizing that the divisions that have been magnified and amplified through these algorithms and everything else isn't necessarily reality. And so the perception is that the Metro is focused on woke issues and the greater Minnesota part really wants to focus on kitchen table issues. We're more alike on that than everybody thinks. And so when we have these conversations, it's important as it could possibly be to get from behind the keyboard or put the phone down, actually have conversations in person. And
The
that's
sound bites, and not the
Yeah.
gotcha moments. of,
exactly,
what about
which
this?
is what we're again, this is what these
Yeah.
algorithms ride on. So, but when you have the in-person conversations, when you're getting people in a room, generally people are easier to get to come together in those kind of things. It's the more genuine sense of civility, the more genuine sense of community that is able to take place when you're having conversations face to face than it is through even a Zoom meeting or something like that. It makes a difference.
There is something about human to human that so far our technology, even though it's nice, I do love having Zooms and I like having the opportunity to have face to face when it comes to electronics, but there's something much more important of being in the lived reality in the moment. It allows us to really sense into each other as well. Like, yeah, she's authentic. She means this. This isn't just trying to win us over, so that the Metro can get its way.
Right.
We really are trying to find what are the shared.
We are interconnected, and what happens in one part of the state affects everybody else in the rest of it. And so when we're seeing, we've all dealt with, to various degrees, the impacts of the surge and the immigration enforcement that's taking place right now.
Right.
We've all seen various aspects of what that does to our finances with the
Right.
withholding of funds from the federal level and how the states are being asked to compensate. The healthcare issue, all that kind of stuff. Especially in rural areas, the shutting down of rural medical facilities
Hmm.
is starting to really have an impact. And we're seeing that increase impacts on the greater parts of Minnesota in different ways. We're seeing an increase in suicide rate amongst farmers
That's just
because
heartbreaking.
they're losing their farms.
Right.
They're not thinking that they're going to be able to stay solvent.
We saw that in the 80s, when the
Exactly.
family farms were starting to
The
go.
farm foreclosures hit record highs in the 80s. And when we're seeing impacts that are even worse than what we saw then, and no real sign that it's going to let up anytime soon, and not a real willingness, as we've seen from some of the rhetoric coming out of the president himself, saying that he's not particularly interested
Doesn't
in mitigating the impacts, the financial impacts to Americans.
Nope.
That is a problem, and it's obviously creating the ground is fertile when people are on unrest,
Yeah.
when there's some nervousness, some uncertainty about your situation. You're going to be more receptive to some of these fear tactics.
Yes.
And the important thing right now, especially for Democrats, is to make sure that we are getting out there and that we are actually having real conversations with these folks and meeting them where they are, not, inviting everybody to St. Paul. It's about getting out to those different areas of the state and getting people in a room and having a conversation.
Absolutely. There's one thing it seems like a lot of folks are agreeing on, and that's the data center. And this is national. There's
Yeah.
still issues, though, in
You bet.
looking at environmental issues and labor issues,
Energy issues,
energy issues,
financial issues, you
all
bet.
of those, and the tension around them. It's interesting because you and I started talking about this.
That's how our conversation began.
Literally last August.
Yeah.
We started brainstorming what are the things that we most want to talk about, and we landed on data center. It seemed like, what's up with this data center? There's something up here that we should look into. Well, meanwhile, this whole last year, the whole other country was like
It's
starting-
exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a news show last night. It's like, well, it seems like beer and data centers is something that we all can have, like bipartisan agreement that there's a lot of issues around. With that,
Well,
though,
yeah.
we do have to take a break.
Sure.
But I want folks to know that in our next segment, we're going to be talking about data centers and the platform and what could that look like, because that's a big one. And then we'll also be talking about what things might be coming up on the convention for folks
Sure.
to be paying attention to. So with that, we'll be right back after some great supporters give us their commercials that support AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and I am joined by Jonathan Rylander, who is helping us to have kind of a bird's eye view of the convention. John's been my co-host in 2 previous shows that we've done on data centers. And he is also a former DFL district chair, a longtime attendee of the DFL conventions. And in this segment, we'll be doing a little demystifying of what that convention does and how people get there and all that good stuff. But I'm just going to start with a short recap of what we have been talking about. We've got late last night, Senator Amy Klobuchar got the endorsement, 67%. We have for the Senate, we're going to have Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan without Angie Craig competing with her. Looks like she's got that secured pretty well. She went into
Should be a pretty easy day
Yeah.
for Peggy, yeah.
75% going in, so got to believe that she's going to do okay today. State auditor, who knows?
It's up in the air.
But they're all good.
Yep.
So-
Most of the delegates seem to feel that we're good hands with any of the 3, really.
We've got some down ballot incumbents. We had Attorney General Keith Ellison and Secretary of State Steve Simon easily
Yep.
getting that support.
Smooth.
And then we started talking about some of the policy issues. We're going to look. The ICE is going to be big.
Yep.
It's going to be a challenge. We ended most of our discussion looking at bridging the urban and rural divide. We have a challenge, but we're up for it. Minnesotans are strong and they are up for things that are hard, and we will continue to keep bridging and finding ways to find connections, which is important to me, and Connections Radio Show. I tease the audience with data center. Now, I know we've had 2 shows on it already, but it's still really important. And it's important, especially when we're looking at the platform in terms of privatization.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Well, again, with talking about data centers in particular, a lot of these are private entities that are building these. We're talking about groups like Meta. We're talking Google. We're talking Amazon. We're talking about things, some of the largest companies, most big profit companies in the world. And it's to drive the AI industry.
Right.
The push for
And
AI
more
is
and more
huge.
people are using their AI, and
Right.
more and more nervousness.
It's more and more pervasive. And
Yeah.
again, we've talked about the impacts that AI is having on the workforce and everything else. So, but these data centers are a big thing. And obviously, it's become a bigger thing over this past year since we started talking about it. And so the big push is, how do we address this issue? There aren't a lot of reforms in place right now about how to regulate these data centers, how we look at the impacts they're having on the communities, the use of
NDAs.
NDAs,
Yes.
exactly. And obviously, we've seen a lot of news about that lately. We're seeing more and more communities pushing back on these. And we're seeing more and more examples of cities that, because, again, there was an example I was just watching on the news just last night, where there's a city that had its data center approved just this past January, but the proposal was in place to start with the city officials that were notified about it in 23. And they didn't notify the public about it until September 25, just 4 months before it passed. And now there's referendums and so on to recall city council members, mayors that are pushing these projects or keeping them secret until the last minute
Surprise.
when the data centers are being discussed. But privatization goes into not just with data centers. We're talking about the detention centers. We're talking about all aspects of this. We're talking about private prisons, which are in the hands of private companies. And with these detention centers, they obviously are, we've heard all the stories about how they're being built in these, what essentially are warehouses. And
And it seems essentially more in the rural. It just does. There might be some in the metro area, but
yeah. But regardless of where they're located, it's a thing where they're being built with facilities that aren't equipped for plumbing.
exactly.
The
And
care.
the town. How can the town be able to sustain energy increases on their own?
And they're being handled through private companies,
Yeah.
which are handling the detentions. And that means that there's less oversight, there's less requirements. And so we're seeing, obviously, this has been going on for a while now, ever since the pushback happened. But we're seeing reports of the moldy food, with maggots and such in them.
In New Jersey, you're hearing about
No lack of health care.
people are committing suicide.
And then in Delany, that's the one that's been in the news the most this past week in New Jersey, where there had a senator who was pepper sprayed outside after trying to get entrance to inspect, which constitutionally and judicially they have the right to do. But the pushback, again, since ICE got its funding, they're playing nice. They're not playing nice. They're at least as nice as they kind of were after the surge was over and all the pushback with Bovino and Kristi Noem happened. We're getting back to the same kind of things that we've saw before.
So for the platform,
Yeah.
how does this all get worked in one way or another? Is it just listening to the voices and know that that's important and it's something to watch? Or are there things going to be in the platform that help address it?
Well, there were resolutions that are passed at every Senate district convention, and that happens, and then a certain amount of those, whichever ones get the most votes, move on to the state party to be discussed. So this all starts way back in February when the caucuses take place. Resolutions are presented, They're voted on by their different rooms, which is just a little geographic slice of the Senate district that they're in, which then goes on to the Senate district for wider consideration, which then goes on to the state. And so we're at the state level now. And so we're looking at resolutions that have been presented by citizens, everyday citizens who are trying to get things addressed.
And that happens more on Sunday, looking at those platform issues?
The way they've adjusted the agenda, it was supposed to be a little bit today and then more tomorrow, but now it looks like it's been pushed largely to Sunday. So at this point, Sunday is when all those resolutions are being that have been brought to the state, are being voted on by the delegates who are present at the convention. And so when we're talking about that, it does tend to be quite a wide variety of topics. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about data centers. We're talking about ICE. We're talking about divestment from Israel. We're talking about all kinds of different things. And that is all going to be voted on over the course of the convention, and the results will be released sometime after Sunday when the votes are finally cast.
Where do you go to your information when it's Sunday night and they've wrapped it all up? How do you like to get what has happened, the lowdown?
Well, aren't going to hear about the resolutions until well after Sunday.
Okay.
Yep. But as far as the where I get my information, I get it from everywhere. And some of them, I've been keeping in touch with a lot of delegates that I know who are at the convention in Rochester this weekend to get their impressions from the floor. But then I also look at the Star Tribune, NPR. I look at all these different outlets. I even look at Fox News to get their take on it, because you got to know what they're saying as well. So you know how they're spinning it, and you're going to see the same story presented in about 20 different ways.
Absolutely. Well, as it's rolled out, though, how will we know what's in the platform?
That is something that you're going to want to check on with the DNC.
Okay.
That is the Democratic National Committee.
Because I've looked at our platform right now and find it really interesting.
Sure.
And it was like, I really should look at our platform.
Yeah. Well, and the state has one, but there's an overall national one as well. And again, we're in a midterm year, so there isn't a national convention this year. They had talked about Ken Martin, who used to be the Minnesota Party chair, who is now the DNC chair. There had been discussions about having a national midterm convention, and they scrapped that. And there's a lot of reasons for it, which we don't have time to go into. But
especially since we have about 1 minute left.
Exactly. So that's where you're going to be seeing the eventual rollout.
Terrific. Do you have one thing that you'd want to share with our audience to be thinking about how they can still be involved and engaged? Because we do have an election coming up.
Yeah.
What are ways that you think our audience need to be active? Because it can be easy when everything seems overwhelming to kind of check out.
What I would suggest is putting down the phone, getting away from the news, getting away from television, and actually showing up. Right?
AM 950.
And if you're truly interested
Yeah.
in having not only being aware of what's going on, but having a voice in what's going on, show up at your local organizing unit meetings. Most Senate districts in the state have monthly meetings. And if you get in touch, you can get it on the DFL.org website. It's the local units section. You can find out which one's close to you. Get involved.
Get connected. Thanks so much for being a part of AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, Connections radio show. So appreciated you being here today, Jonathan. And thank you for listening. We've got some wonderful programs coming up, and we expect that you'll join us for those too.